A heads up, today's topic is a little heavy, but that's because we have now officially entered into October, which is Emotional Wellness Month, as well as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And there's also a mental health wellness day, which is October 10th. So I want to touch on that in this particular episode by talking about your permission to tell the truth. Good evening. Happy Wednesday, my winners and goal getters. I am your host, Melissa T., the Procrastination Bully. Welcome back to another edition of the Getting the Win show. And of course, the mission of the show is to help women who have navigated a trauma or transition find healing through writing and publishing their first book. Okay. So the month of October hits home very closely. Like, this speaks directly to the mission of this show. And I want to help you gain that permission to tell the truth if this so happens to be the reason why you've been procrastinating on writing your book. Because again, I'm still a procrastination bully. I just targeted it to helping women authors get those books out there. But let me start off with some statistics first before we get into more of the esoteric parts of this conversation. Let's start off with some facts first. CDC recently revealed that over 50% of women have suffered some form of sexual violence in their lifetime. Other recent studies show that 63% of sexual assault cases are not reported at all. And then in the broader scope, not just on the topic of sexual violence or sexual assault, in the broader scale, women are 2 to 3 times more likely to develop PTSD than men are in a recent study. So this says a lot. This is a lot to digest. But this is the reason why I am such a huge proponent of helping women who've navigated their trauma or transition find healing through writing and publishing their first book. Obviously, writing is not the only tool, but it can be one of the most powerful ones that you have available to you. And today, I want to give you that permission to speak the truth. Perhaps your issue is not imposter syndrome. You're 10 toes down in what you know, right? Like, that may not be your issue. Maybe your issue isn't whether or not a book is too complicated to write. Maybe you're fully aware of the cheat codes that are available to you. Maybe your concern is whether or not you should speak the truth at all. Now, here are some things that may hold someone back. This may be you. This may resonate with you. And if it does, please put it down in the comments. If any of these, whichever one of these applies to you, put it in the comments. I love to hear. So one main reason why a woman who's navigated a trauma or transition may be reluctant to speak the truth is perhaps a cultural significance. Perhaps you come from a culture where women are not allowed to speak, or women are not taken as seriously in your culture. So speaking out may be frowned upon. Or perhaps you come from a culture where speaking up about your trauma could be seen as taboo. Maybe you come from a culture that is all about minding your business, right? There are many across the world. Like, some of us in the Caribbean, we deal with that. I'm Jamaican, so Jamaicans deal with that. You may come from the continent. Like, there are a lot of African cultures that are big on minding your business, keeping things to yourself, not sharing your business with the world. A perfect example of this is Lupita Nyong'o, obviously Oscar-winning actress. The very name of her podcast is rooted in that cultural significance. It's called Mind Your Own. She's born in Kenya. Well, technically born in Mexico, so of Kenyan descent, of Kenyan culture, right? But that's big in Kenyan culture. Like, mind your business, don't share your business. So the purpose of her podcast is to share those sort of unspoken stories that would seem taboo, right? And there's a significance to that. Right now, her podcast is a hit, specifically because it bucks the cultural norms of minding your own by sharing those difficult stories. Okay. So I get it. If you come from a culture that's like, either mind your business and don't share your own, I get it. That may be one of those reasons why. Your issue may be fear of reprisal or fear of retribution. If you wish to share your story or have been told that you should in the form of a book, one way to contravene that, one way to avoid it, is to share your story using aliases, using fictional names. And in addition, perhaps using a pen name for yourself if you wish to protect your own identity as the author. Using a pen name could be an option for you. Okay. There are plenty of women who do that, by the way, not only as a means of protecting their identity, but also as a means of ensuring book sales. Because the other hindrance, this leads into another hindrance for, getting that book out there, is women authors on the whole still struggle a bit compared to men in terms of book sales. The numbers are a bit lower in some cases than men. So some women, what they will do to go around that is create a pen name. Like, if you think about it, J.K. Rowling, without seeing her face, that sounds like a male name, right? If you're familiar with the 50 Shades of Grey series, the author went by the name E.L. James. That sounds like a male name, right? It's a woman, though. You know what I mean? So there are plenty of women who will use what's called a nom de plume, a pen name. So it can be a fake name altogether or just initials with the last name. Either way, these are options that are available to you if you're afraid of reprisal or retribution by the person or persons that were involved in the trauma that you experienced. Okay. Not only using fictional names in the book when you're retelling the story, but also using a pen name. So consider that as an option. Remember, the purpose of this episode is giving you permission to tell the truth. Okay. So in terms of the other two that I mentioned, the taboo thing, the cultural taboo, not talking about your business and minding your business, the counter for that is the example with Lupita. Sharing your story, you will find that others will resonate with your story, which means your story is necessary. It is because of the perpetual silence that trauma continues in the world or in your respective region, whether it's a country or your specific region within your state, if we're in the United States or whatever, that smaller region. The more the story is put out there, the louder and the brighter the light that is shown on the issue, and the more likely something can be done about it. Another issue is that you may be afraid to share your story just overall, not even necessarily with the fear of retribution. You may be afraid to relive the trauma. Now, here are some countermeasures with that. One, be sure to find a community for yourself, because a connected fear there that stops women from sharing their story or reporting their traumas is that they might have a lack of community. So if this is your issue, be sure you can use an AI tool to do it. You can use good old Google to do it, or ask around anybody that you may know, even if it's one person that you may know. Like, find out some relevant communities that you can join so that you can have a cloak of safety. Because lack of community is one of the biggest issues with women who have encountered a trauma or have navigated one and didn't report it or waited a very long time to talk about it. They didn't feel safe. They weren't in community, or they didn't have a support system. So definitely look into that. If you don't have one, research communities that are available to you. And there are plenty. Okay. Or if you're in a situation where you are highly isolated, because unfortunately, that is one of the hallmarks of abuse. Isolation is one of the biggest hallmarks of abuse. If you have your one person, use that one person as your conduit, as your means to get help. Because I understand those who have gone through a trauma, especially if it's abuse, one of the most frequently spoken things that you'll hear is leave. That's real hard to do if you don't have a support system. If you're in an abusive situation, leaving is going to require other people's help. So you may not be in a situation where you can do it yourself. So I get it. Okay. So if you have only the one person, use that one person as a conduit to connect with other people or other communities so that you can build your support system. Because with isolation, you may have limited access to a phone, limited access to the internet. But if you see that person in person, perhaps that is the means of support. So do it that way. Okay. If you have access to the internet, by all means, search networks like LinkedIn. Facebook groups are still a pretty good resource. And keep looking, use Google, use your AI tools. Another concern in terms of permission to tell your truth, to tell the truth, is you might be concerned over the loss of control over the narrative. So, one common saying among creators is once you put something out into the world, it's no longer yours, right? Here's the beauty of it though. While the published work, your published book, will be open to interpretation by others, you do still control the messaging. Their interpretation of the messaging is not your responsibility. But as the author of the book, you have control over the narrative. You get to maintain that. So through social media marketing, through your use of honest videos, whether you're doing that on TikTok or Instagram or any other social media channels, maybe you choose to do it through writing. Maybe you choose to do it on platforms like Threads or X or Blue Sky, or you choose to create a blog and you can microblog your experiences. Either way, whatever means you choose to use, as long as you are consistent in conveying the message behind your story, your intended message behind your story, you still control the narrative. What other people choose to do with your messaging, with your narrative, is their responsibility. You can't control what they do. You can't control their response. But the meaning and the intent behind the narrative, you absolutely do control. So your truth can remain your truth. Okay. And in case there's any pushback, you can always answer them back on social media. If there's ever any pushback, you can clarify as often as you need to, as often as you want to. You can clarify. I mentioned before about reliving the trauma. This might be a fear of yours, and I totally get it. There is a power in writing that actually helps you navigate the trauma as you relive it. There's a previous episode where I talked about that. You can see the link above here and in the description below if you're watching on YouTube. I'll provide that link for you so you can go back to it. But I do specifically address that fear or discomfort of having to relive the trauma as you're writing about it in your book. Okay. But for the purpose of this episode, let me just share this. In terms of reliving the trauma, one tool you can use is to literally speak to yourself and remind yourself that this is only a memory. You're not experiencing this trauma all over again. Like literally say that out loud so your outer ear can hear it. Speak your name and do this in front of a mirror so you can actually see yourself too. There's power in doing that. But deeply breathe, 6 deep breaths into the nose, out the mouth. That recenters the nervous system. And then you remind yourself, you're not experiencing this trauma all over again. This is only a memory. And it's going into a book. And remind yourself of the people that you're going to be able to help in sharing this story. So that's just one tool. That's one approach. If your concern is the discomfort of having to relive the trauma by telling it again. And related is sort of a regret. If you're going to feel a bit of regret in telling your story, you need not worry about that. You can redirect your attention to the people that the book will help. Focus more on the people that the book will help, the lives that will be freed by sharing your story, your experiences, and your lessons. And again, you can always use aliases in your story. So if your regret would be in sharing the story and perhaps upsetting the people in your life, use aliases if you need to. If you're worried about the perpetrator, the person that actually caused you harm, again, use an alias, and use an alias for your own name, use a pen name to protect yourself. But focus more on the people that your book is going to help. And of course, if you followed my framework, following those episodes with the framework, during that foundation step, I talk about that. Like, what do you want your book to do? How many people do you want your book to help? Where do you want your book to reach? Do you want it to have international reach? Do you want it to only have national reach? Do you want it to be in academia? What is your vision for your book? Once you get clear on that, then you can focus on the impact that the book will have, which will gradually wear down that regret. It will gradually lower that voice in your mind. Okay? Focus on the empowerment of the people who will read the book. If your reason for not speaking is fear of judgment or criticism or disbelief, I totally understand. So again, the counter for that is focusing on the people that the book will actually help. Because I get it, especially in these United States, victim shaming is a whole thing. The common question is always, what took you so long to talk about it? Let me lend voice to this. Let me validate what you experienced. If you're someone who waited a while to talk about this, or if this book, this approach to writing your story for the very first time is going to be your very first time disclosing the trauma. First, let me say, your trauma is valid. Trust me, I get it. I fall within those statistics. As a child, I experienced sexual violation, not sexual violence, but I was molested twice as a child. I never reported it to the authorities. I reported it to members of my family, but we never went to the authorities with it. We handled it in-house. So I get it. Okay? Let me free you up as it relates to those who choose to not believe. The beauty is you can't do anything about their unbelief. Free yourself up from that. You have nothing to prove. Your experience is real and true to you. And your story is going to free someone else. It's going to free up many others once you share it and your book is marketed correctly. I have an episode on how to properly market your book as well. So don't worry, I got you. That's in the description as well. So focus on how you can constructively be a blessing to other people with this book. Focus on who your target reader is. Going back to that foundation step, focus on who your target reader is and why it's so important for you to help him or her. Okay? Your validity is in sharing your story to help that person, that reader. And that impact will, of course, be multiplied. In terms of fear of judgment, again, focus more on your target reader. Because in these days of the internet, judgment is inevitable. And here's the other thing I do want to share. We don't often mention this as it relates to the internet and internet discourse. A lot of the negativity you see online is not even real people. A lot of it is bots. True story. A lot of it is bots. Here in the US, some were generated by other countries, but the point of the matter is a lot of the negative experiences you see online are not actually by real people at all. They're done by bots. So let that free you up as well. One, there's nothing you can do about the judgment or criticism or disbelief or any form of blowback because you're not responsible for how someone responds to your story. Your calling as it relates to this book that you're sharing in terms of how you navigated your trauma or transition is to put the book into the world. Get your story from off your chest and out of your mind and into the world, onto the page, into an audiobook. That is what you're responsible to do. And sharing that message in a way that is constructive and can help someone achieve results in their own life, providing them with actionable steps that they can use based on your experiences. You're not responsible for any blowback any criticism, any disbelief. Don't worry about the victim shaming, the victim blaming, because at this point in your process, you're not a victim anymore anyway. You're a survivor. You're a victor. You overcame already. What you're doing with getting this book done is solidifying it in a tangible way so that the rest of the world can learn from what you experienced and find victory in their own lives. You are creating something that will be your legacy, something that's repeatable, that other people can use and win with. And here's a bar for you. There is no greater flex in this world than achieving a win and creating something to help others win. There is no greater flex in the world than achieving a win and creating something tangible to help others win. That's the legacy play you want. This is your permission to tell the truth. Don't be intimidated by anybody. Don't be intimidated by anything as it relates to machines. Like I said, bots. There are trillions of them on the internet. Don't worry about them. Okay? Your focus is telling your story your way, delivering your message your way, and delivering a legacy piece that is permanent and actionable to help others win because you've already won in your own life. So now here are some ways that writing can be a tool for healing for you. Now I've addressed all of the reasons why you may have been hesitating to tell the truth and those counters. Now let me talk to you about how writing can be your tool for healing, or one of your tools for healing, okay? If for right now, writing a book may be overwhelming for you, you can start small. So start with journaling. I've talked about journaling many times on this show. Journaling is a powerful thing because there is something cognitively significant about putting pencil or pen to page and physically writing. There's something satisfying to us about that. Plus, it makes things stick a little bit more in our minds. So when you write in microdoses, that makes a world of difference. And here's what I mean by microdoses. I just wrapped up my Truth to Transformation book boot camp. And in that boot camp, we spent 30 days for 30 minutes a day, helping women complete their books to be self-published ready in a month. Maybe you don't even have 30 minutes, and that's okay. You can microdose with 5 to 10 minutes. Start with that. Start with 5. Let's give you a solid number. Start with 5 minutes. You can do that before bed, or you can do it first thing in the morning, or both. Just 5 minutes. Start there. Then if you get into a flow, you can keep going. Okay? Another way, if you don't want to just write raw, or perhaps you're wondering what to write about in the journal, don't worry about that because I've got you with this next one. Another way to heal is to write using prompts. Okay? I have an episode in which I talked about journal prompts and prompts that you can use to improve your mindset, to goal set, to vision set. So I'll have that link in the description as well. But here are some examples of some open-ended sentences that you can use to start, to get the juices flowing. You can start with sentences that self-check in. When it comes to insert trauma here, I feel blank, and write about that, like write on that. When it comes to this trauma, I feel shame. I feel like I should have known better. I feel like I should have said something to somebody. I feel like whatever those feelings are that come to mind, write those out. I've shared in previous episodes using the approach about letters as well. So one of your journaling prompts could be a letter to yourself, whether it's a letter to your child, your inner child, or a letter to present day you, perhaps listing a promise that's connected to the trauma. Perhaps you haven't told a soul yet. So one of your journal prompts, one of your open-ended prompts can be, dear, and then put your name. I promise to tell one person about this, and name that one person, whoever that's going to be. And then in this prompt, this journal prompt about the promise, list out what you plan to tell them, because sharing your trauma could be overwhelming for you and for the person that's going to hear it. So one way to guide the process is to tell yourself precisely what portion of this you wish to disclose, because it's entirely up to you how much you want to talk about. You don't have to feel pressure to dump everything. And even if you are ready to share this in the form of a book, still, you don't have to dump everything about your trauma into the book. Your experience can be so comprehensive that you can divide it into multiple books. I've experienced this with several of my author clients. Once we go through that foundation step and we ideate, we do the word web and all of that, they discover that there are actually multiple books that can come out of their one experience. They can create a series of books, or they can write one book and then create a course series out of it. So you get to choose with this particular journal prompt. When you make this promise, list out specifically what portions of your experience that you plan to share. This can help guide your thoughts. Okay. Another prompt that you can use in terms of journaling and microdosing your writing experience. Another prompt that you can use is writing the opposite, meaning writing the vision of who you want to be, who you want to see yourself as. Now that you've navigated the trauma, write out a vision of who you want to become in the next year, who you want yourself to be, and dream as big as possible with this. Okay. Do you want to be more vocal and assertive? Do you want to be perhaps more diplomatic? Do you want to be more proactive? Do you want to be more helpful? Like, write out vision casts, like write out all the different things that you wish to be in a year as a direct result of having navigated this trauma and coming through on the other side of it. Now that you're on the other side, who do you want to be in the next year? What do you want to see? What ripple effect do you want to have? So these are ideas that you can use in terms of microdosing, in terms of journaling. If you don't want to start just raw, maybe you don't have an idea, you can start with these as examples. If you're someone that's not much of a writer, you prefer to talk, by all means, use these prompts, but voice record them. That can help you as well. And all of this, whether you voice record or write them, it's content. So even if you're not interested in starting a book right now, doing this as a form of expression is still cathartic for your body. It still relieves your body of some tension because you're getting it off your chest and you're talking about it. Okay. So another microdosing idea with the writing is writing a letter to the perpetrator, writing a letter to the person who violated you, the person who caused the trauma. That can be one journal prompt for a day. And you can break that up into starting in the morning and then finishing it out in the evening before bed. If you prefer to voice record, by all means, you can use one of the examples I used in an older episode, which is the empty chair exercise, where you speak to the empty chair as if the person is sitting there. Your body can't tell the difference. You will experience relief in doing so. Okay. So if you're somebody that prefers to talk it out loud, by all means, do the empty chair exercise. But in terms of healing through writing that letter will make a world of difference for you. You will feel a sense of release and relief when you do that. Hopefully this episode was beneficial for you. If you have any questions for me, drop them in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. Of course, be sure to subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube at Getting the Win. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, and Threads at Getting the Win Show. And I am on TikTok at Melissa T. Writes, at Melissa with 2 L's and 2 S's, T. Writes. But yeah, be sure to DM me on Instagram if you have any questions or you want to, go over some things with me. I'm happy to help. And if you want to join the community, follow me first on Instagram and then DM me the word community, and I'll be sure to get you the link into mine. All right. Safe space, because again, community is another huge element in healing as it relates to navigating this trauma or transition, and especially using the trauma through your book and healing through writing this book of yours, okay? And stay tuned next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern for another power-packed episode of the Getting the Win Show. In the meantime, in between time, have a great and productive rest of your Wednesday and a great and productive rest of your week. Peace.